So good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Asad El Malik, and I want to welcome you to the African Center for the Study of the United States' panel discussion entitled The Return: Why Are African Americans Choosing Africa? This panel will seek to explore this growing phenomenon of African American expats finding home on the continent of Africa. The African Center for the Study of the United States has been dedicated to exploring the relationship between the African diaspora and the African continent. To put it quite simply, African Americans are a natural constituency that offer a plethora of knowledge and experience, especially when they choose to make Africa home. I am sure this will be a lively discussion, but before we start, let's lay out a few ground rules that will help this discussion run smoothly. Number one, please mute your mic. We want to be able to hear our panelists without the distraction of background noise. Number two, we will be taking questions. Please type your questions in the Zoom chat or on the YouTube chat, depending on where you're watching, and we will attempt to get to as many questions as possible. Now, I will pass it over to my colleague, Dr. Bob Wekesa, to give a brief intro and background on the center.
Thank you very much, Asad. And thanks, colleagues, for joining this session. You are most welcome virtually to the African Center for the Study of the United States. Mine will be very brief welcoming remarks. And after that, you'll excuse me because I'll have to run. I'm actually, as we speak, in DC, but traveling back to South Africa, to Johannesburg, which is why I'll seek your indulgence in accepting that I leave. But I can see some friends here. So in terms of the center, I just wanted to mention that we were established in March 2018, and therefore becoming the first of center of its kind. And the motivation at that point was that there were so very many African studies programs in the United States. There were very few, in fact, none on the African continent. And we were very clear that the US has a very large impact on the continent, politically, economically, culturally, and so forth. But we didn't have nuanced understanding of the impact of the US and the relations thereof. So we determined that we'll start a center that will not only seek to study the United States, but also provide a linkage between scholars on the continent and in the US. And so the major programs that we undertake is one in the teaching domain. And as I mentioned this, if you feel there's any one of these programs that you can be involved in, you are most welcome for a discussion. So the first component is teaching. We undertake graduate studies in various, in the various social sciences. So for instance, there are colleagues of ours who are teaching aspects of American literature, of American history, of American economics, of American geography, and so forth. All these are mostly at the graduate level. We refer to that as postgraduate in South African context. The big plan here is that in the next couple of years, we'll go to an American Studies program, an American Studies degree program, I should put it, which will also be graduate. But at this point in time, we are teaching units within existing courses. And so, as I mentioned, maybe I'll also just add that we also teaching master's and PhD level in international politics, international relations, and so forth. So this is one area. If you have a passion for teaching, in any one of those domains, this is one area we'll welcome you to, consider, and we can have a discussion. The second major program that we have is public engagements, such as this virtual event that we have today, and we have many of those. I'll mention one where Jai Scott has been involved, I can see her on the call, which is the Black History Month. Every year, we align ourselves with the Black History Month events and host an event at WITS in Johannesburg. Usually we'll have themes that align with the Global Black History Month, programming. But beyond that, we usually also have creative ideas around themes that can be undertaken during the Black History Month. But beyond the Black History Month itself, we also have Juneteenth. I think this year we missed out on undertaking an activity during Juneteenth, but this is something we have also done over and over the past years. And of course, whenever there's a topical issue, be it the year of the return or the return movement or any other related activities, you're most welcome to partner with us. And we can always consider doing those virtually or physically. The other area, and all these areas actually related, interrelated, is research and knowledge production. I think my colleague Asad is leading on this front. We are working towards producing, everything from policy briefs to thought leadership articles. We are thinking of undertaking book projects and special journal issues. So that's another major area where we can think about. I think Asad has been working on distant cousins as a project, for example, which is quite interesting itself. And finally, we have an outreach program in the sense that when we were established in March 2018, it was not the idea that we just established the African Center for the Study of the US at WITS in South Africa alone, but we move on to create these centers elsewhere on the continent. So this far, we have another center with exactly the same name at the University of Pretoria. Another one was established in October last year at the University of Nairobi in Kenya. I think we are progressing towards establishment of a similar center in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and at the Pan-Atlantic University in Lagos, and others will be coming forth. So this is what we are framing as outreach, so that there is a connection between those of us who are interested in these topics, not only in South Africa, but in other countries, as connected to the US. And so you're also welcome to contribute ideas along those lines. Otherwise, I suppose this, concept of and practice of the return movement is a timely one, and I wish you very good discussions today. I'm hoping and looking forward to the outcome, a good outcome of this. Probably will have some forward-looking strategies. I can assure you that as a center, we'll back up those initiatives, provide the administrative support where we can. But of course, I should not stop without mentioning the big elephant in the room, in quotes, which is usually funding. So as we discuss these ideas, it's also very important to figure out where the resources to make this work happen will come from. And I think I'll stop there so that there's sufficient time for the core discussions. And back to you, Asad.
Thank you, Dr. Bob. Very much for those words and thorough explanation of the center. I'll move on now to the bios of our panelists. So starting with Chief Antoine Inslee. He is the former police chief of Fletcher, North Carolina. He spent the bulk of his career championing justice reform. He earned his BS in criminal justice from the University of North Carolina and an MBA from Pfeiffer University. He is also a graduate of the FBI National Academy for Law Enforcement Executives. Next, we have Dr. Kanikia Hodge. She is the founder of Redemption's Place Global, which is an organization dedicated to creating positive change in low-income communities affected by low-quality healthcare. Her vision is to bridge the social and economic gap among the African diaspora. She earned her doctorate in social work from the University of Southern California. Next, we have Ricky Jones Jr., who is a native of Georgia, currently residing in Johannesburg, South Africa. He is a content creator with over 20,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, which documents his journey from the United States to Africa. He earned his BA from Louisiana State University and an MA in Christian Ministry from Mercer University. And finally, Jay Scott. She is an entrepreneur, motivational speaker, and author. She has been featured in Black Enterprise magazine and was the finalist for Forbes 30 Under 30 in 2017. She earned her BS in Pan-African Studies from the University of Louisville and MFA from the Academy of Art University. So we welcome our panelists and think we can just jump right in and get started. So Chief Antoine, I want to start with you. What are some of the primary factors, in your opinion, driving African Americans to consider relocating to the continent of Africa?
First of all, good to see everyone. So for me and mine, when I say me and mine, I speak of my wife who was here with me in Johannesburg, but also my 74-year-old mother who's also here living with me in Johannesburg. The factors that stimulated us, first and foremost, was the economic factor. As many of you know or will know, that the dollar exchange here is extremely well in our favor. So, being a 54-year-old wanting to retire, I recognized one day that in order to do that, I need to leave the continent. I need to leave the United States of America to retire in a place that offered both the quality of life that we were seeking, but also the desire to be among the majority in the population. So I think the factors are multifold. One is the economic factor. The other is the quality of life here is extremely well. I won't mention the food, but it's good as well. But there are a number of factors. Many of us who grew up in the United States, if we're honest about it, we've romanticized for many, many years about being attached to our brothers and sisters here on the continent. So, factors for us gave us an opportunity to not only visit, but also be well welcomed here on the continent. I think those are very significant factors that welcomed us, and we've been enjoying it so far.
Absolutely. Any other panelists want to chime in? If not, we can move on to Dr. Nikki. Let me ask you: can you share your personal journey or experiences related to moving to Africa and the factors that influenced your decision?
You know what? To be honest with you, I never envisioned moving here, right? But and it's not one of those things that, oh, I would never go to Africa kind of thing. It was just that, we are as limited as our exposure is, right? So one of the things that what led me to come here was just visiting, just going on vacation, right, on holiday. And the moment I got here, I was like, there's something about this place that makes me feel like I need to be here, right? So I think it came around the time when I started to be more disenchanted with being in the States. Like there's too much, too much going on. I need to find a way to get a mental break. I'm a mental health therapist, so there was this pull of like having balance in my life, and I think having the chaos that was going on in the States helped propel that forward motion into exploring other opportunities, other possibilities. So being here in South Africa immediately felt like this was the place to be, right? It was more of a spiritual connection. There's like this gravitational pull, and everything else just aligned for it to be. So I just went with the flow. I went with what felt like it was destined, for me to be here.
Absolutely. And I think all of the panelists live in South Africa, and I know that the title of the panel is Why Africa? So it's actually specifically South Africa. So I want to ask Brother Ricky Jones Jr., why do you think South Africa has become particularly popular destination for African Americans?
Yes, indeed. So I would say, well, first off, hello to all, and thank you, Dr. Saad, for having me on this evening. And even with that, I would say, it's so much like America, right? Being that a lot of us, specifically the panelists here, are from America, moving here, it's so much like the States that you just get here and you feel right at home. right? For so many reasons, right? And that is the main one. However, even if you were to just to break down the main places from Cape Town to Joburg to Durban, Cape Town is like California, right? There's mountains, there's beaches, there's the vineyards where you can get the wine, but then there's that outside inside living. You have Johannesburg, that's like a mixture of New York, DC, Atlanta, right? Depending on who you talk to. And then you have Durban, that's like Florida, right? Because it's on the coast, it's on the water, has the beaches and the warm weather. And so when you get here, no matter where you are, respectfully, in South Africa, you feel like home. And from the only main thing is the driving, right? Truth be told, driving on the right side is a whole new experience, and driving along the taxis is a whole nother experience. But outside of that, truth be told, it feels so much like the States, that living here, moving here, operating here is like something that you've been doing. And so when making a move, one of the main things you want to do is to feel familiar with your surroundings, and coming here, you definitely get that. And last but not least, it's the people, right? You can't help but to experience the love and the welcome and the glad you're here and the welcome, like all of those things like that you get to experience when interacting with South Africans. It just makes you want to be here and stay here. So those are some of the things that I would say people come in contact with to say why I want to come to South Africa.
Thank you. I want to bring Jay in because she actually studied Pan-Africanism in her undergraduate course. So, Jay, in your opinion, how has kind of this historical connection between Africa and the African diaspora kind of influenced this trend that we see now?
Thank you, Dr. Asad. So as I think about this question, I really don't want to like generalize or make assumptions for others. But as it relates to me as being African American, the historical significance wasn't much a factor. And I say that because I think maybe possibly one of the contributing factors could be Mandela and post-apartheid, but the main factor for, I guess, my age is social media. Let's be real. Everything is on the internet. We see the things that they didn't tell us. So it's this whole kind of perspective of what Africa is, what it should look like. And especially people are like, why do you want to go there? You know, and for me, it gave a sense of home when I visited Africa. So specifically South Africa, I was given an opportunity to come and speak. And once I touched the ground, it just felt like home. And that sense of freedom, I haven't felt here in the United States. So for me, I think some of the factors were women that I was meeting all over the world, and some of them were coming from South Africa. And it's like, yo, come and visit. And then when you go and visit, I feel like it was just like New York. It was just how Black people are supposed to live in some aspect. And it was just a different feeling for me. So I would say social media is one of the main reasons that my generation and younger are literally making that trip to the continent. So I wouldn't say more so the historical factors, but the present of I can see it now in real time and see people like me.
Definitely. And that's from some of the research that I've conducted. I've noticed the impact of social media. In fact, I kind of describe it as the third wave. As we look at South Africa in particular, there's the post-apartheid wave, there's the post-World Cup wave, and then there's the social media wave. But to stick that kind of same vein now, Chief Ensley, I know from previous conversations that you grew up in a very Afrocentric home. So what role does cultural and ancestral heritage play in one's decision to move to Africa?
Sure. So I was raised in Brooklyn, New York, and my mother and father, most of my childhood talked about Africa. My dad was ultra Pan-African. He wore dashikis all about life. He bought my first dashiki when I was about 3 years old. So we always remembered conversations in our household about Africa. Our ancestral background goes to Western Africa, Benin, Togo area. And I've never been there. So as we aged, we started thinking more and more about our ancestral connection and things of that nature. Like I said earlier, my mother's 74 years old, and she was 72 years old when she came here for the first time. And it was just so rewarding for me to have my mother along on the journey with me and my wife here. Everyone else in my family is still asking the question, why y'all going to Africa? But for us, it was a natural migration. For the last 5 years, we've been talking about it. COVID made it come to fruition for us. You know, I think back, my grandfather right now is 92 years old. My grandmother's 90 years old. They live in Eastern North Carolina right now. And when I look at my grandparents who are still alive, kicking, enjoying life, they are still romanticizing. They're even more romanticizing now about Africa because now we're sharing our story with them. So to be able to share a story about touching the continent with your grandparents is nothing less of a blessing. So my grandmother right now is sitting on Facebook every day, taking in everything that we post, everything that my mother's posting. So like many African Americans, you know, we've romanticized about the idea about ancestors and the idea of the culture that we didn't have or didn't know. So it's been a pleasure, it's been a blessing to be here. So if I can connect anything to this experience is coming here and meeting some outstanding people, some loving people. And when I say loving, truly loving, it's not fake. It's in their DNA, it's in their culture. And it's been nothing short of a blessing. And I wish I would have did this when I was in my 40s, but you know, having God's time, it's been great being here.
Absolutely. I just saw a question pop up in the chat, which actually was going to lead me to the question for I'm going to pick on Ricky. The question was about some of the challenges in South Africa: load shedding, unemployment. Ricky, you've been here 3 months now?
Yes, going on 3 now. Yes, sir.
Going on 3. So what are some specific challenges that African Americans face or that you faced when you were making the move from Florida to South Africa, and how did you personally address those challenges?
Yes, sir. So the first one is which visa to get when moving here, right? And so that's the main one, that if anybody asks me, how did you get here? They always ask, which visa did you get? And so to address that obstacle, we had an immigration attorney. We had a lawyer that was planted here, or that is in Cape Town specifically, and they helped us through the process and asking us the specific questions that found out about who we were, what we have to offer, what all we have, and they were able to piece together which visa would be applicable for us to make the move. And so that's the number one, the main one. And then beyond that, I would say is that even visiting, right? I've come in contact with people that have messaged me saying, I would love to move there. And I'm like, oh, okay. Have you been here before? Do you look to come? And they say, no, I haven't been there yet. I'm like, whoa. I mean, I'm excited for your excitement, but I do recommend you visit first, just so you know where specifically you would like to live, where you would specifically like to be. And so that's another obstacle, right? But then last but not least, finances. People not having the specific or necessary finances to actually make the move. And I'm a man of faith. I grew up in the church, and I was taught from a young age to tithe 10%, save 10%, and learn to live off the rest. And so in doing so, my wife and I have been in a financial place to be able to make the move. And because we were savers, we handled our finances well. We have multiple businesses, and we did what was necessary to always be able to achieve our goals and strive to reach our goals. And so those are some of the problems that I've come in contact with others, and hopefully I address the solutions that could hopefully help people hop over the hurdle.
I do want to ask, and I'm going to put this out to either whatever panelist wants to jump in. We talk about load shedding. When we discuss South Africa in particular, there's often this idea or this perception of crime, and then some infrastructure concerns, mainly load shedding. How have you guys been able to make those adjustments? And what has your experience been with any crime or gray areas of the law, experiencing any gray areas of the law? Go ahead,
I'll
Ricky.
jump in. since I was last talking with load shedding specifically, we thought ahead, knowing that that was an issue and a concern that a lot of people were saying, watch out for. And the apartment building that we in has a generator and has gas solutions. And so they have solutions for the load shedding problems. And even specifically, I have the app that lets us know, what the load shedding would be in the area. And this week, there's been no load shedding. And even all the way to Saturday, it says no load shedding. So all that to say, think ahead and where you may look to live, look to get inverters and things like that. But even beyond those things that you can do to make sure you're taken care of at home, we found load shedding to really not be a problem, truth be told. And so that's my experience, the Jones family experience. So that's me.
Anybody else want to address that?
So we came in 2021 and we didn't have solar system. We've since purchased a solar system and inverter for our home. I grew up, on kerosene lamps. I'm old enough to have known kerosene lamps were in play in the household. I remember a time where we didn't have any electricity back in the States. So, experiencing load shedding here wasn't as traumatic. I understood it. I get it. It's an opportunity for the country to improve. But after about 6 months, we said, okay, we had just about enough of the lights going out, and we went ahead and invested in the solar system. Since then, we've obviously had power and adequate energy and things like that. But to Rick's point, you have to be prepared for that. If you're overly used to creature comforts, electricity is not just a comfort, it's a necessity in the United States. But if it's one of those things that you can't do without, yeah, you better plan to come here, because you just never know when it's going to be a tough week. We'll go 1 or 2 weeks and you're not having any load shed in the area, but then you may have 2 or 3 days back to back. And also, depending on where you live in Johannesburg, you may experience load shedding a little bit more than others. I found that in a little more affluent areas, they don't have as much load shedding as some of the more challenged areas economically. So it's that situation here as well. Dr. Asad, in terms of crime, I spent most of my career in public safety. I've lived in some of the country's toughest cities, worked in some of the toughest neighborhoods. I've never felt safer. People say, man, be safe over there. And I go back to them, well, you in America, you be safe over there. You guys watch yourself over there, those streets. Very safe here. If you want to find some trouble, if you want to find a place to get robbed, you can find it. You can find it in Beverly Hills. You can find it anywhere. But I found that if you carry yourself in the right manner and you're, being vigilant in where you are, it's a relatively safe city. So it has crime, 6 million people, you're going to have some crime. It has economic challenges, you're going to have some poverty, so you're going to have some crime. So the factors are in play to have criminal activity. But for the most part, I feel safer here than I've ever felt in the United States. That's being a career police officer, working some of the toughest streets and understanding what crime looks like. So I think the narrative of crime here is over exaggerated, but it is here. You do have some activity here for sure.
Definitely. And I want to pivot to Doc Nikki, because Chief Inslee brought up some interesting points about, be safe in the United States while they're telling us to be safe over here. So it's about these kind of perceptions that we have of Africa as a whole, and then South Africa in specific, or South Africa specifically. So Doc Nikki, how does the experience of living in Africa now differ from the perceptions or expectations that many might have prior to this move?
I've experienced nothing but peace since being here. And what's crazy is like when you grow up in the hood. Some people say I grew up in the neighborhood, but it was the hood. Don't take away my street cred. But growing up in the hood, I have people, like, oh, crime, is it safe? Don't be careful of your surroundings and all that. And I'm like, I want y'all to really think about that. When back in the States, in our neighborhood, right, especially from, where I'm from, there are people who have lost their lives over someone stepping on their shoe. There were people who lost their lives because they wore the wrong color. There are people that's losing their lives just by being literally in the wrong place at the wrong time, such as church, right? You experience these things back home, and yet you fear more of the unknown, which is Africa, than you do what you're experiencing at home. That's trauma, right? Being able to live and operate in the state of consistent exposure to traumatic things, and yet feel that the unknown, such as all the different things that's being told to us about Africa, is more frightening. You know, that's something off about that, right? So when I have people that say, you know, they ask, number one thing is crime, like what is it like over there? I have to remind them that, you know, think about how your life is right now, how you have to be hyper vigilant right now in the neighborhood, the community you grew up in right now. I, in a foreign place, don't feel that or fear that. That's peace. And so I'd rather have someone steal my phone than someone to kill me over a hot sauce packet or ketchup packet, the thing with the young girl that was killed in DC. I'd rather have someone, steal my money or try to take the things that can be replaced than to lose my life because I want to enjoy myself at a bowling alley, right? We have to be real about weighing these things out. You know, y'all those people that lost their lives in Maine, they went into a bowling alley to have fun, have a good time, not knowing someone was going to come in and just, sweep the place. I pick my poison. I'd rather someone take my loose change, right? So we have to put things into perspective for those back home, because you've been told for many, many years and generations. It's not just, what you've heard growing up, but you've been dissecting things that's been passed on for generations, all the negative things about Africa, which some true, some mainly untrue, not true at all. So, I put things into a real life perspective for a lot of people when they try to hit me with the things to be worried and concerned about. And then on top of that, it's kind of crazy to tell a combat vet to be careful in another country.
Absolutely true.
Let's be real about that. Okay.
I want to bring Jay back into this conversation. Jay, you've been here. I think you originally came in, was it 17 or 16? What year was it?
I've been there for 3 years.
3 years. Okay. So you've had an opportunity to kind of look around and see the kind of the economic landscape. What are some kind of opportunities, both in economic, educational, as well as kind of career advancement that African Americans maybe can see in Africa as compared to the United States? And I want to add a little bit more to that. Access to individuals who may be in positions to assist. Am I clear with that?
You're very clear. I think that is a packed question. And I'll start with the first one. Let's start there. So as the collective, there can be a myriad of reasons, but for me, like my direct connection is more economically. I would just say the comparison of the cost of living. Going somewhere beautiful. I actually work there, work in the US. So the way that I get compensated within my own country allows me a certain type of lifestyle that may not allow South African that certain type of lifestyle, depending, just talking about the overall economic disparity within the country, right? The opportunities, it really depends. So I'll go back to where I think the gentleman was talking about visas. So you only can do so much depending on the visa that you have, unless you decide to do the illegal way, where it's just like, okay, I can do some contracts, make some moves, which you can do. I'm not saying that you should, in case of, SARS or somebody is watching, but I'm saying that these are ways that you could kind of make money on the continent. Like, it started to make me think about things that I never thought about before. And it's regular things for us, such as corn. We eat it all the time. You go, you're in South Africa and you realize, oh, I can actually have a logistics business that move this commodity that can make me a certain type of income. So these type of things, I think people have thought about, but for me, it is accessible. I can touch it, I can do it. I didn't think in America, I don't think that for me is as accessible, right? We feel like it's something that is far away that you really can't touch. So it really depends on, I guess, your visa. It depends on if you're an entrepreneur, you can start businesses. Now, most people don't know you don't need a visa to actually start a business in South Africa. I have a registered business. And what I mean by a visa, a business visa, let me be clear. You don't need a specific business visa to start a business within South Africa. You can register your company on say if you were coming in on a tourist visa, you can register your company on your tourist visa. And the reason why they allow some people to do that, because a lot of people go in and out, right? And you doing business all over the world. But now you do have to register where you are paying taxes on the business that you do within that country that allows it to be legal. But I would say that there is a lot of advancement that can go on within the continent. It is more of, for me, not what you can take from it, but what you can give to it or what is mutually beneficial. Educational wise, I think like the program that is at WITS is one of the opportunities. I'm not so familiar with a lot of the educational opportunities outside of WITS, but I know that there's an exchange programs and things like that that you can benefit from, and just connecting. For me, I think my connections allowed me to get in places and have different opportunities that I think that is far removed from me here. And though I'm very connected here, it's just like my second week in South Africa, I'm already at a private event with the president. It's just certain things like that. It's not so much red tape, but it allows you access, and it just take advantage of your opportunity. How can you make that work for you? And I think that's what the continent offers. And I think us going back as African Americans with the certain skill sets, how can we benefit the continent and then allow them to thrive? Because we see the opportunity. People there see the opportunity. It's just building that bridge.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jay. That's to piggyback on your point. Within a few months, I was sitting at a table with the U.S. ambassador to South Africa, something that I would never even fathom as a New Orleanian, back home. So we definitely have these opportunities on the continent here in South Africa and across the continent to have access to certain individuals. And as I look at Miss PLC, who has been a mentor to me as I made this transition, I wanted to pivot to Antoine and ask about the importance of building community and networks among African Americans who have relocated to Africa. And as we're talking here specifically South Africa. So can you touch on that, the importance of creating networks?
Sure. It to me is paramount. When we first came here, we knew no one. And then slowly started meeting other Black Americans who are here in Johannesburg. That network is critical in establishing, one, the fact that people are here on a learning journey just like you. And we pulling from each other all the time. And it's necessary because even though you come here and you're being loved on by our brothers and sisters here in South Africa, don't be disillusioned that everyone is on your side. Everyone is not going to love on you here. Everyone is not going to be in your corner. You come here, you live in a different type of lifestyle than some, and everyone is not very happy about that. So people will certainly take advantage of you here. I'm talking about folks who want to provide you services, and they're going to charge you extremely high compared to what you should be paying for, because they understand that you're transferring that dollar to that rand. So they believe that you have more money to spend, so they're going to charge you accordingly. So those networks helps you to share information so that our brothers and sisters who are coming here aren't falling in the ditch, aren't paying more money than they should be paying, and just truly networking. But also on the other side, to Ms. Scott's comment, we have certain information and certain access to other business owners back in the States. I'm in workforce development. I came here also to help create jobs. I came here as a workforce development expert to create industry. Those things can't happen without a network. So sharing information helps us to bring other opportunities here, help bridge the way for people who want to come here who may not have information, and just create that ecosystem so that that network actually flourishes. So in my estimation, you really can't thrive here at the most general level without connecting with the brothers and sisters who also came here from America. So it can make that experience with our brothers and sisters here even more fruitful. So it's paramount. You can't, if it wasn't for Dr. Asad and so many other Americans that I've met here over the last couple of years, I'd probably be spending more money than I should be spending. But those networks just made it much more better for me.
Definitely. Go ahead, Brother Ricky.
And even just to highlight what you just said, which is beautiful, right? Because my wife, she went to go get her hair done. Just a practical example. She went to go get her hair braided and went to the salon, came back. And I was like, oh, okay, looks nice. Whoop-de-whoop. She was like, yeah. I said, well, how much you pay? Because, I handle the finances, so I just want to see where we are on these things. And she was like 600 Rand. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I did, the equivalent. Okay, we saved. That's less than what you would pay in the States. However, she was like, when she was talking to other women about what she paid coming back, they were like, whoa, you pay so much. They said for that style, you shouldn't have paid. Well, they wouldn't have paid any more than 200 Rand. And so that's a 400 Rand difference. So I was like, wait a minute. And so even with that, I then tapped into my network, like you just talked about, of talking to Dr. Asad. Hey, I'm about to get a haircut. How much should I expect to spend? And he gave me a ballpark figure of what he had spent for he and his sons. And so I knew going in, no, you're not going to get me. My wife was taking advantage of us because she didn't know. However, thanks to my network, thanks to the Americans that I'm connected with, I know what I should expect to pay. So brilliant explanation for the connections.
Yeah, definitely. Networks are super important for us. And I don't want to get on my soapbox because I'm not the star. You guys are the stars of this show. But I do say that as African Americans, this is the first time in our history that we have been immigrants. We were enslaved people, right? We had never been immigrants. So we're still learning how to build communities outside of our natural or our home in the United States. So I think it's going to take some time, but we have great examples, excuse me, in Ghana. They're doing phenomenal work. The African American community out there is doing phenomenal work. And I think that the South African American community will definitely, in due time, build a phenomenal community here. I want to bring Doc Nikki back in to this conversation because earlier on you mentioned the tragic events in Maine where 22 people were victims of a mass shooting, 60 others injured. But there's a lot of other stuff going on in the United States. We have the possibility of the re-election of Donald Trump, a man who's been 4 times indicted. There is, this what they're calling the red wave, right, of kind of very conservative Republicans who are taking over House seats and Senate seats across the nation. So my question to you, Doc Nikki, is how do you see the current state of racial relations and social justice movements in the United States affecting this decision for African Americans to kind of look to Africa?
Well, that's that question is so on point right now. I see that I'm from Texas. I'm a Texan. And so there's always been a red wave, right? So I see in every aspect of my life back in Texas how things, no matter how much things change, they stay the same. But now we're in a situation where it literally looks like we're reverting backwards, like so much so that educators can't teach, right? As a matter of fact, you're seeing in several states where the requirements to be a teacher is decreasing. You can just hop in with maybe a few college credits and be a teacher, right? So in Texas, seeing laws literally change, diversity and inclusion that's totally wiped away, right? That you can be punished for hiring someone due to creating more inclusion in your workplace. That was 1960, wasn't it? It's 2023. So we're seeing things go backwards. Our generation did not grow up during the era of segregation when it was legal, right? But now we're seeing this literally happen during our lifetime. Our parents thought that they were done and over with all this stuff, and now it's going back. So it's like, okay, now what do we do? The states have, I don't know, I can't speak for a lot of people. The states has never really felt like home, right? So if the laws that are in place is telling me that I don't belong here, then all it did was propel me to go to a place to where I feel like I do belong. And that's exactly what's going on right now, is that they creating opportunities for people to find a way to find their peace, find their home, right? You're just helping a movement to happen. And so with all the madness that's going on, like, yeah, I don't mind packing up and going to Africa, going to the continent. I have people who are leaving their suburban communities because they are at fear of being in their own suburban communities, which seems supposed to be safe, to venture out and see. Well, Donald Trump said it best when he told Black people, "What do you have to lose?"
Right.
So we're all at a point now where we're like, what? As a matter of fact, he said, "What in the hell do you have to lose? What in the hell do we have to lose?" So yeah, that's why all the madness and and as a mental health therapist too, I'm seeing my clients go through things that I struggle too with trying to help them get through. I'm like, that's something else, How can I help my client who's struggling with racial trauma? And I'm like, man, I am too. How do we get through this? You got to you got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to be get okay with being uncomfortable. We're too comfortable with being uncomfortable in the situations that we're in. So why not use that same energy and branch out, discover something else? And that Africa, you told me to go back home. That's what I'm doing.
I want to jump in here. Brother Ken Williams, who's a member of Phi Beta Sigma, and I think my brother Chief Antoine, you guys need to meet each other because we are all members of Phi Beta Sigma. But anyway, the brother said the African American experience in history, moving south to north or north to south more recently, doesn't escape racial trauma. And I think that's a very important point. I was speaking with a sister named Dr. Sharday Davis, who was kind of documenting the Blackzit, is what it actually has a name now, right? It's called Blackzit, but it's not just about African Americans coming to the continent, but African Americans leaving, going all over the world: Portugal, Mexico, Bali, all of these places, all over Europe. So, and a lot of the motivation behind the move is to find a sense of peace after being traumatized for so many years. And I think that we don't recognize the trauma until we actually outside of it, right? So it starts initially with the Black travel movement, us just traveling. And then when we travel to these places and we're there for 2 weeks, 10 days, a month, and we look up and you say, man, I didn't think about racism, or I didn't feel that pressure that we didn't even know we were feeling when we were in the States, right? And then that kind of opened the mind up, like, man, do I want to go back to that pressure cooker of the United States? But in the interest of time, we have about 10 minutes left. If there are any questions from for the panelists, please put them in the chat. And while we get those questions, I want to ask each of the panelists this final question. What advice do you have for African Americans who are considering moving to Africa, and how can they best prepare for the transition? And I'll start with Chief.
My advice is, don't be scared to deprogram yourself. To rethink everything that you've been taught over the last 20, 30, 40 years, however old you are. Everything from your well-being, quality of life, social economics, how you manage your money, what you do with your money, how you leverage your money, rethink everything. Because one thing I know about the United States is that we've all programmed about how to buy a house, how to go to college, how to spend your money, how to invest your money, to everyone else's benefit. And hopefully at the end of that road, you might have some money left over in your retirement to make it work for you. I'm here to tell you that, we sat down and we just started rethinking everything. We deprogrammed ourselves, which wasn't that difficult to do. Everything from how we buy a house, how we finance a house, what we do with our retirement savings, and how we make it work for us in South Africa. And so don't be scared to really challenge yourself, take some risk, go fearlessly forward and think about what's best for you, your family, your well-being. Because I'm telling you right now, we got out of the United States and we haven't looked back. And we don't intend to go back because it's been a blessing on so many levels, spiritually, physically, mentally, economically. It just makes great sense. So don't be scared to sit down with your significant others and just rethink everything that you've been thinking about for the last 20 years and consider another option for yourself. And I bet you will come to a conclusion that there are some better options out there for you.
Brother Ricky, what advice?
Yes, indeed. Everything that he said, bravo, amazing, and well said. Like, truth be told. And even with that, visit, right? Wherever you're thinking about moving to, visit, whether it's South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, you name it, visit there first so that you can have that sense of home and know where home will be when you eventually make that move. But even beyond that, make the investment in an attorney so that you can make sure all is well when you go to submit for that visa application. Because the last thing I wanted, right, we're a family of 4, we have 2 little kids, is to be rejected after doing all the necessary paperwork, all the necessary adjustments and requirements. The last thing we wanted was a rejection from my great man, brother David. But nonetheless, in it all, get you an attorney so that you can go about it the right way. And you can be confident and assured to know that once you submit your application, that it should be approved, right? There's no guarantees. However, beyond that, have fun. Have fun. There is so much to do here. It's specifically Johannesburg. There is so much to do, so much to explore, so much to see, so much to experience. And I say go for it. Connect with those that are connected and join the network that Dr. Asad and the school is forming, and you will be at home and you'll have the peace and certainty that you are in a place that you can now call home.
Thank you, Brother Ricky. Sister J.
Thank you, Dr. Assad. I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit. And I'm going to say I agree with the brothers ahead of me of what they said, but I will also say don't put all your eggs in one basket. Come with an open mind. Do not just align yourself with Americans or African Americans, and don't come with the crabs in the barrel type of mindset. I will say there are 2 different type of groups that you may come in contact with, where those that do want to help you and those that just gonna watch you and know they can help you and don't help you. So there's certain different groups, and especially if you just need opportunity or you may need resources, don't just stay within those circles. Look outside of them. Touch base with actual South Africans or other people from the continent, because they can also be resources. But also be careful, because some people can trick you because they think, hey, you have dollars versus rands. But we have this intuition, and just use your common sense. And I probably shouldn't say that because everybody common sense is different, but use logic. So, and in that regard, I would just say, come with an open mind, have fun. know that there is opportunity here, but also do not lose your connection back to the States. And I know that I'm one of those people that I came, but I'm a pandemic baby. And I realized 3 years was too long for me to be away. And just in that transition, because if you want to be in international business or create a certain type of lifestyle income, you do have to keep those type of relationships. And that's what I mean. Just make sure that you keep a pulse on what's happening around you and what's also happening back at home. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Sister J. I wanted to read this comment from my brother, Dr. Delaney, a good friend of mine from New Orleans. He just says, I enjoyed today's discourse. Let's stay connected. I'm on Instagram at Dr. Ray Delaney. I'm off the class. Take care, brother. And then Walter Scott asked, what is the best place to land an essay? Is it Joburg, Cape Town, or Durban? So maybe we'll start there. You know what? I'm going to ask this question to Doc Nikki because she is actually torn between Johannesburg and Cape Town. So Doc, I'll let you take that question and also the advice question about when you're considering to move to Africa. What advice do you have?
All right. Thank you so much for even inviting me for this discussion. I love being amongst like-minded people and those who share in your experiences. So the big discussion is always, and if you go on YouTube, Joburg, Cape Town, or Durban, right? And I cannot choose. And I'm gonna tell you why I can't choose. Each area, each city provides something unique. For me, when I'm in Cape Town, I'm in a place, I love nature, right? Yes, you have nature in Josie, but it's something about being in between the mountains and the ocean, that connection that you get with the earth, with the land and everything. I get a different sense of peace, right? So I feel more connected with the elements around me. So that's healing for me. When I'm in Josie, I have that connectedness to the people, right? So if I'm creating balance for myself, I can't pick one or the other. I need both, right? So that's why, I recently visited Cape Town. Now I'm back in Josie and I'm with my people, right? So it's always important to pick balance. Choose what fits and what gives you balance. And so because I can't pick between the two, I catch my flight and I spend my time wherever I need to because it is affordable to do so, and I make that happen. But you get a little something different from each place, so it's all based off of what you're looking for. Now, to segue into making a decision to come to the continent, or better yet, come to South Africa. One of the things I would like to tell African Americans, Black Americans, there's a debate between that. But anyways, what I would like to tell my people is stop being comfortable with fear. Fear is that one thing that is forever persistent in your life. It dictates what you do and don't do. Let's break away from being okay with that fear. And a lot of fears, we develop fear that's passed on from our parents' parents, and then maybe from certain life experiences. Let's break free from that relationship with fear. The more you're afraid, the more you stay stuck. So I encourage my people to go into the rest of this year and moving forward throughout their lives, embracing what being fearless looks like. If you have no one to come with you to South Africa, trust and believe you will make connections day one of you arriving. This is not a place you go to and not make a connection. If I come across anyone that say, man, I went to South Africa and I couldn't make any friends, I'm going to have to schedule a session with them, and we're going to have a discussion as to why your social skills are not caught up to where you can engage with other people. This place is beautiful. Pros and cons with any place, but this is the first time I ever felt like I was at home. So with that being said, why not? Go ahead and try it out. And just real quick, I had a moment and like somebody said something like you don't really realize, I think it was you, Brother Asad, where you said you don't really know how much trauma you experience until you get here. Or when I went to Four Ways Market and seeing all these brothers and sisters together and went there for the first time, and I'm like, oh, this is a whole vibe. I'm having fun. And then it dawns on me, no one is angry. No one is starting any mess. We got brothers and sisters that can get together and have a good time, vibe out, and leave and go home safely at the end of the day. That touched my soul so much so I then became enraged on the inside. I was like, we've been conditioned to be okay with violence. Let's break away from that. So thank you for giving me this platform to speak on. I really appreciate it, brother.
Thank you. We have 2 comments from Dr. Will. He says, welcome, Dr. Mickey. I moved 2 months ago, and the peace without fear allowed great relationships with SA brothers and sisters. Frat Ken Williams says, it is also important for folks interested in these sorts of big move possibilities is to know you never forfeit your American citizenship. Where you were born is where you have a legal birthright. Relocating abroad to the Republic of South Africa doesn't mean you need to renounce your US citizenship. Financially, RSA is not dual taxation country. You only pay taxes to RSA based on income earned in RSA, which is important. And unfortunately, we didn't have time to kind of get into that discussion about taxation, but we have a few more minutes. We're 1 minute over, so I want to read these comments. Relisa, Sister Hooks said, hey family, consider coming a few times personally. I learned something different each time. I had horrible load shedding during the 205 worst days of load shedding last year while being here almost 3 months. I'm here now on my 5th time and have finally found a temporary spot while looking for a more permanent home. I'm on IG and YouTube under the name Relissa Hooks. Hopefully, let's meet up soon. And thank you, Dr. Asad and panelists. Awesome discussion. Thank you, brother, for joining us. My brother, this is my battle buddy. We went to boot camp together. Damian Nunley said, I need that good vibe, good people, and safe living for more and the family. Thank you, brother, for coming. Art, thank you, Doc, for the panel. I'm looking forward to meeting you guys when I return. Definitely, brother, we look forward to it too. Sister Kimberly Williams, thank you, Doc, and the panelists. This was great discussion. Ken Williams, awesome discussion. Thank you. Paul, thanks, panelists. I learned new information today. Awesome discussion. And Doc Walk just put his IG information in. And P. Collins said, this is a great discussion. Dr. Asad, thanks, Dr. Asad and panelists. I really enjoyed it. Okay, with 3 minutes over, I try to be a timely person. So thank you guys so much for participating in this panel discussion. This is probably the first of many. We will definitely have another one closer to the, probably after the new year. But thank you guys for participating. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or want to learn more about the center, I did put the website in the chat, but the website is Africa-US-Forum.Africa. Africa-US-Forum.Africa. And you can learn about all the activities that we have at the center. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. You have an awesome day.